This video is going to cover each question from your review assignment. Feel free to jump to any questions that you might have had trouble with, or watch the whole thing if that would be more help. If you have any questions, please reach out. I am happy to help. Let's go ahead and get started. Question 1, solve the equation. Whenever you look at an equation for the first time, look to see where your variable is. I can see that it's on the left-hand side. I don't have one of each. So remember what that means is after I draw my line, I'm going to designate one side to be my variable side and one side to be my number side. Because this is my only variable, that's my variable side. This is my number side. Let's continue. The next thing I do is I say to myself, parentheses, I can't get rid of anything inside of parentheses, so I got to get rid of those parentheses. To do that, I'm going to distribute 2 times x and 2 times 5. 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 5 is positive 10, equals 34. I just bring down that other side. Once I'm simplified, remembering this is my variable side and this is my number side, I am going to get rid of anything that I don't want on this left side. Anything that's not a variable, I need to get rid of the 10. So minus 10 first. I'm going to subtract 10, remember, because I'm doing the opposite operation. This says plus 10, so I must undo that. So this zeroes out on the left, and I'm left with 2x is equal to 34 minus 10 is 24. Finishing this up, I remember that this means 2 times x, so I'm going to undo with division by dividing by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12, so x is equal to 12. Next, question 2. Solve the following equation. Again, I'm going to draw my line and I decide where my variable is. Well, I don't have any on the right-hand side, so that's my variable side. This is my number side. I also notice that I have 2 variables. I need to simplify. I can only end up with 1. So I'm going to combine these 2. I don't need to do any opposite or any subtracting because it's on the same side. So I'm just going to do 3 plus 4, which is 7x. I bring down the x with that, and I bring down the minus 10. Bring down my equal sign and 11. Because this is my variable side, I need to get rid of the minus 10. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So add 10 to both sides, and I'm left with 7x equals 21. Again, this is multiplication, so I'm going to undo it with division. X is equal to 3. Number 3, drawing my line. Variables still over here on the left, numbers on the right, but on the left there's lots of variables. I cannot combine anything inside parentheses with anything outside, so I have to eliminate those parentheses first by distribution. So 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. I stop because the parenthesis stops, and I bring everything else down. So plus 12 minus 12x equals 27. Again, I can only have one variable, and right now if I separate out my terms, I can see that I have 2. I have 5x and I have negative 12x. Because they're on the same side, I'm just going to add them together. And that gives me negative 7, and they were x's. Now I also notice that I have this term, negative 20, that's a like term to positive 12. So I'm going to combine those as well. And here's where a calculator comes in handy. Negative 20 plus 12 gives me negative 8. That's all that can be simplified on the left, so I'm going to bring everything down that's on the right-hand side, which is equals 27. This is still my variable side over here. This is still my number side. That means I need to eliminate negative 8. I'm going to undo the subtraction by using addition, and I'm going to add on both sides. And I am left with negative 7x is equal to, if I type that in my calculator, I get 35. This is multiplication. I'm going to undo by division, and I am left with the result of x is equal to 30 divided by negative 7 is negative 5. So that would be my answer. All right. This next one, after I draw my line, I notice that I have variables on both sides. Remember, the first thing to do is decide which variable is bigger. I can do that because I don't have anything to simplify. This variable is bigger, 5, so this is going to be my variable side, and this is going to be my number side. As the left side is my variable side, I'm going to remove the -3 by adding 3. Remember to line up just my numbers. I'm going to put that 3 underneath the 10, and I'm left with 5a, because this zeroes out, equals 4a, and 10 plus 3 is 13. Still keeping track of which side is my variable side and which side is my number side, because this right side is my number side, I am going to get rid of 4a, and because it's positive, I'm going to subtract. And as I simplify, I'm left with 1a is equal to 13. Now, if you divide by 1, that's fine, but we can also recognize that 1a is the same as a, and I can write down my simplified answer. Next, I have question 5. I draw my line of balance. I do notice that there's variables on both sides. I notice that 4n is bigger than -2. And since this is my variable side, I'm going to add 1 and get rid of my constant, so plus 1. I am left with 4n is equal to -2n. Combine those two terms, and I get positive 24. Continuing, if this is my variable side and this is my number side, I'm going to remove 24. I am going to remove -2n by adding 2. The way to get rid of negative terms is to add. And I'm going to combine -2 and positive 2 zeros out. And on the right-hand side, I'm left with 24. And on this side, 4 plus 2 is 6n. Again, I solve by division, and I'm left with n is equal to 4. On this next problem, I draw my balancing line. Now I notice that I do have variables on both sides, but I do notice one odd fact, that this is my only number. So this is going to be my number side. This is going to be my variable side. I know, even though this is bigger, I'm going to make that happen so that I don't end up with some funky zeros hanging out. So because this is my variable side, I'm going to leave it as is. That's the way I want it. And on my number side, I'm going to get rid of the 10j by subtracting 10j. So on both sides, I'm subtracting 10j. 7 minus 10 is -3. Bring down the j equals 21, because this is zeroed out. This is multiplication. So I'm going to divide, and I'm left with j is equal to -7. A lot of people think when I have a negative coefficient that they add to get rid of it. But because I'm trying to separate the 3 from the j, and I'm not trying to move the 3 and the j all together, I need to ask myself what operation is going on between those. So that's why I divide instead of add. Drawing my line for number 7, I notice I've got a lot going on both sides, so I'm not going to make a decision about my variable side and number side until that is simplified. On the left-hand side, I notice, I'm going to change colors for just 1 second, I notice that my two terms cannot be simplified, so I leave that as is. And on the right-hand side, I separate my terms by all those pluses and minuses. I have 10n and I have -4n that are like terms, and I have 6 and 1 that are like terms. I need to combine those. So 10 plus -4n, and that simplifies to give me 6n. And 6 plus 1 is 7. So because that is a positive 7, I'm going to make sure I write down plus 7. And then I'm going to bring down my left-hand side as is, because it did not need to be simplified. Now that I'm simplified, I'm going to choose a variable side and a number side. This is my variable side. This is my number side. From here, on the left-hand side, we're going to get rid of anything that's not a variable. Let's see. So we are going to get rid of the -1. by adding 1. We're going to add 1 to both sides of that equal sign. I'm left with 14n equals 6n plus 8. When I combine those two, I get 8. From here, since this is my variable side and this is my number side, the left is how I want it. The right side, I need to just get my numbers. So I'm going to minus 6n from both sides. That leaves me with a total of 14 minus 6 is 8n. 6 minus 6 is 0. That's gone, and I'm left with a positive 8. My last step is to divide by 8 on both sides because 8 times n. I undo that with division, and I'm left with n is equal to 1. Number 8. From here, if I look at this problem, I do notice that I have variables on both sides, and both variables are trapped in parentheses, so I'm not going to decide a variable side yet. Let's start with distribution. 6 times 1y is 6y. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Equals, on the right side, 2 times 2y is 4y. And 2 times 10 is 20. Now I can see which side does have more y's. This is my variable side. 6 is greater than 4. So variable side and number side. Because I need to get rid of the minus 30, I'm going to add 30 to both sides. And we are left with 6y is equal to 4y plus 50. This is my number side, so I need to get rid of the 4y, and since it's a positive, I'm going to subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2y, so I'm left with 2y equals 50. And last but not least, I'm going to undo the multiplication with division. That disappears, and y is equal to 50 divided by 2 is 25. Hey, step harder. Drawing my balance side, they both have lots of variables, so I'm going to make sure I simplify both sides. On the left-hand side, I can see if I separate terms that there are no like terms, so I'm going to leave it as it is. On the right-hand side, I see that there are parentheses and like terms, so remember to do parentheses first. And then simplifying. So negative 4 times negative 2, make sure you're careful with those negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive 8w. And negative 4 times a positive 8 is a negative 32. I stop with my parentheses, and I bring down the minus 6w. On my right-hand side, if I separate out my terms, I can see that the 8w is a like term to the negative 6w. 8 plus negative 6 is 2. So I've got 2w left over on the right-hand side. I'm going to slide that over. 2w. And there's no like terms for the negative 32, so I'm just going to bring that down. Equals 4w minus 18. Draw my line. Which side has a bigger variable? Now I'm going to choose my variable side. This one does. This is my number side. So I'll get rid of the 18. I'm going to add because I've got subtraction going on. That zeroes out, and I'm left with 4w is equal to 2w. And negative 32 plus 18 is negative 32 plus 18 is negative 14. I'm going to continue to solve. Since this is my number side, I'm going to get rid of the 2w by minusing it. 4 minus 2, we're going to bring our work over here. 4 minus 2 is 2w. There's my balancing line equals. The 2 minus 2 zeroes out, and I'm left with negative 14. And last but not least, I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to get w equals negative 7. That's kind of hard to see. W equals negative 7. All right, this next question is going to be the hardest of the equations that we're going to have to solve. I'm going to still solve this the same way. I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to look at the left and the right, and I'm going to ask myself, hey, which has the bigger of the two? But I notice the parentheses, and I can't make a decision until it's simplified. So I look at the left. I'm going to deal with parentheses first and multiply. 3 times w is 3w. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And I bring down the minus 8. On the right-hand side, I continue to distribute. 6 times 3 is 18W. 6 times 6 is 36 plus 7. Okay, now I still have multiple W's and constants, but I'm going to make sure I simplify both sides before I start moving anything around. On the left-hand side, I notice that there are no other terms on this same side that has a W, so I'm going to bring that down. -9 can combine with -8. Those combine to give me -17. And on the right-hand side, 18W is on its own, and 36 and 7 combine to give me a total of 43. I'm going to continue to simplify. 18W is certainly bigger than 3. So on the left-hand side, I need to get rid of 3W because it has a variable. So I'm going to minus 3W since it's positive. And I am left with -17 is equal to 15W plus 43. Since this is my variable side, I need to get rid of 43. I'm going to subtract instead of add. -17 minus 43 gives me a grand total of -60 is equal to 15W. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to divide by 15. And that gives me a result of -4 is equal to W. Okay, for story problems, keep in mind that I'm going to read the story problem first, set up an expression for what situation is going on. I'm going to look for any totals, and if there's no totals, I'm going to look to compare the two. Here's the problem. You need a plumber. One plumber charges $35 per hour with a $30 appointment fee. Another plumber charges $45 per hour with no appointment fee. So there's no total price, but I'm comparing one plumber and two plumbers and another plumber. So plumber 1 and plumber 2, I'm going to make a comparison. I'm going to write and solve an equation to find out how many hours they will need to work so that their fee will be the same. So I want to know when plumber 1 is equal to plumber 2. Let's go ahead and get started. Plumber 1, what's the situation with them? They work for $35 per hour, so 35, and I would continue to add 35 for every hour. So in order to show this out with algebra, I'm going to write 35x with a $30 appointment fee. Well, I'm going to add that, a $30 appointment fee. I only have to pay that once, so I am not going to add an x. I want to know when that is equal to plumber 2. Plumber 2 charges $45 per hour, so 45x with no appointment fee, so I don't have to add anything additional. And this is my equation. How many hours will they charge the same amount? Well, remember x stood for hours, so I'm going to go ahead and solve. 45 is a bigger variable, and 30 is my only number, so we're set. I'm going to minus 35 from both sides. These x's zero out, and I'm left with 30 is equal to 10x. I'm going to divide by 10, and I'm left with 3 is equal to x. So after 3 hours, the plumbers will charge the same. After 3 hours, plumber 2 is going to take off, charge more. Last one. Caitlin will rent a car for the weekend. She can choose one of two plans. All right, I'm comparing two plans. I'm assuming plan 1 and plan 2. The first plan has an initial fee. So let's write down the information we know about plan 1. Initial fee of $59.96 and costs an additional, so additional means add, 12 cents per mile. So 12 cents, but not just one time, multiple times. So 0.12x equals, I want to know when it's equal to plan 2. What is plan 2? The second plan has an initial fee of $63.96 and costs an additional 8 cents per mile, so 0.08x. Comparing these two plans, first off, this is my equation. Secondly, which one has the bigger of the two variables? This is a bigger decimal, so variable side, number side. And I'm going to start by getting rid of my non-variable. So because it's positive, I'm going to subtract. So I'm finding the difference in my two V's. 63.96 minus 59.96 equals 4. Okay, this is my number side, so I'm going to get rid of 0.08, my 8 cents per mile. On the left side, 8 cents, 12 cents minus 8 cents is 4 cents. And the zero's out. Last but not least, I'm going to divide by the number that's next to my decimal. 4 divided by 0.04 is 100. Write this over here. X equals 100. After 100 miles, the cost will be the same.